Okay, everybody, that was a great new song by Callie Uchis, Tyler the Creator, and Bootsy Collins called After the Storm. Did you like that song, Sheik?
Yeah, it's a great song.
Okay, perfect. Well, we're here at the Let's Talk Life show with Leticia Latrice, the Princess of Phoenix. We're bringing the world to Phoenix and Phoenix to the world. And today I have a wonderful guest, Mr. Sheik Ushaka Isoraq Bay. Did I get it right?
Kinda.
Okay. We'll let you say it
It
again.
was close.
Okay, well, you say it for us correctly.
It's Sheik Ushaka Isoraq Bay.
Okay, well, welcome to the Let's Talk Live show. Thanks so much for coming. He's the CEO of the House of Babe Publishing and Production Company, and he's also an international attorney that we have here with us today. And we're going to talk about law. Let's talk about it, Sheik. What are some current events that are going on right now? Because we're going to sip a little tea. We're going to talk about, what's happening right now today in society. So what is like a current event that came up this week that we can discuss?
Well, for me, one of the main current events that came up was how Capital One, Chase, I think Bank of America, and Citibank are banning people from using their credit cards to buy digital currency or cryptocurrency,
Really?
as it is called. And a lot of people are freaking out, panicking, don't know what's going on, and don't know what to do. And some people are just throwing their hands up in the air and just giving up and just.
Wow. That's horrible. It's so amazing that cryptocurrency has become such a popular thing now, and people are really starting to jump on the bandwagon. What do you think about the cryptocurrency?
Well, it's not. Cryptocurrency really is not being. I wouldn't say it's popularized now. I would agree with you that a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon because of the media. You know, they've been saying things on what is it, CSNBC, and things on Facebook and all the videos just trending. But anyone that has been paying attention to the financial system, they know that currency or money, as I say in quotes, has been going digital for a long time, which it pretty much already is. The only difference is you can go to your local bank and withdraw pieces of paper and exchange them for whatever you want to use them for.
Right. Well, that's true. This is the wealth segment, you guys, of the Let's Talk Live show. So we're going to get into, some information that people maybe were not aware of, because I do feel like in this day and age, when it really comes to the way that money works and the way that the laws concerning money work and things of that nature, we only know the surface level information as a citizen. You see what I'm saying? Until you really take time to dive in deep, research, do your due diligence, you'll come to find the reality of how money works, how the cryptocurrencies work and all these things. Because just like you said, hey, we're already living in a digital currency age, because you can send people money, transfer it online, you can buy things online, and there's no money being transferred.
And even credit cards.
The
Credit cards are digital.
Mm-hmm. So what is the difference?
And even when you use your Visa debit card, that's all digital as well.
Exactly.
So, and the main reason why the bankers don't like digital currency so much is because it's peer to peer, and it eliminates the middleman. So when you do, for instance, now they have a system in place, which is the Federal Reserve System. So if I wanted to wire transfer you some money, well, my money would have to go to San Francisco to sit for however long they say it's going to sit for until it actually reaches you.
Right.
Well, with digital currency, I just send it to you.
It's over.
Instant. It's yours. There's no fee. I don't have to pay $30, $15 to send you money.
Right. That's probably what the real problem is. It's taking out the middleman.
And right now, too, and anyone that's in my circle, I always tell them, when you hear negative reports about digital currency from the media, don't listen to that. You want to interpret the news. You don't want to listen to the news.
Right.
Because they know that there's a lot of fear-monger people out there.
Right.
And they're going to use them to get them to sell all their digital currency investments, so that can bring down the price, so that they can secretly buy into it, and then they're going to manipulate the people again so that they can start buying it,
Right.
which is going to raise the price up, and that's how they have been getting around the blockchain and manipulating the digital currency.
Right. And I think that's really big that you kind of pointed on that. And that's some of the things that we're going to get into today on the show is the fact that, they're manipulating the message to make the masses react the way that they want to. So as an international attorney, I know that you have some kind of inside scoop about some things that us as common citizens should be aware of concerning like laws and things that are happening in everyday life that we're just not aware of. And I would like you to share that.
Well, the main thing that I explain to people is that a lot of people don't really know how to operate in commerce, even though they've been dealing in commerce their whole entire life because everybody buys and sells things, but they don't know the actual laws behind it. They don't know the structure. They don't know the terminology or the legalese. So if you were to set that verbiage in front of them, it would be as if they're reading a language that's foreign to them.
Right.
So I explain to people is that first and foremost, when you're dealing with the business, you need to have an understanding that a business, although they're dealing with you, a flesh and blood sentient being, on paper they're not dealing with a flesh and blood sentient being. They're dealing with the entity that's known as a fictitious entity, which the word fictitious in legal means obviously fake.
Right.
So because a business can only deal with another business. However, every business needs a flesh and blood person to do things on behalf of the business.
Right.
So one of the main things I tell people is you need to go file a fictitious name, which some states you can just file a fictitious name. You don't have to do what is called articles of organization or articles of corporations. Depends on if you want to do an S corp, C corp, or LLC.
Right.
Because by doing that, now you're putting yourself in a position to where the statutes and codes now work for you.
Right.
But when you don't organize yourself in that capacity, the statutes and codes are actually going against you.
Right. So let me just be clear. And the first thing I want to say is that the Let's Talk Life show is not giving any legal advice or any legal expertise. Okay, please consult your own attorney. And even though he is attorney, we're still not giving out any legal advice today on the show, but we're just giving some information and tips. So now when you say a fictitious name, that's the equivalent as somebody having an LLC or an S corp or a partnership,
right?
A legal entity business that's operating in a state.
Right.
You've registered with the Corporation Commission. You've registered your business with that state.
Secretary of State.
With the Secretary of the State. So now, instead of you being an individual as Leticia, individual under my Social Security number, or Sheik as an individual under your Social Security number, you're going to be operating under a business.
Yes.
Okay.
And how they cover it up is they change the verbiage. So when you see the word person, that actually makes you think that they're talking about an actual person, but they're not. They're talking about a fictitious entity with the characteristics of a flesh and blood person.
Very good.
So they use, because they know that a lot of people that speaks English, they only speak it on a general level.
Right.
So they don't speak it on the esoteric or legalese level.
Right.
So that's how they hide it in plain sight.
Exactly. Right.
So people assume that they know the definition of the words when they see them, but they have no idea.
This is very good. And this is what we're learning today on the Let's Talk Life show. It's like when you get a contract and, you're signing for a loan or you're doing whatever, it feels like you're signing your life away because you are. No, yes. I'm just kidding. But you are.
No, you are. You are. And contract law was something that I really focus on the most, because everything that we do is bound by contracts, whether they're disclosed or non-disclosed, assumptive or presumptive. So it's like, for instance, when you go to the airport, TSA assumes that you agree to whatever all their rules and regulations, so you have a contract with them.
Right.
But legally, you don't have a contract with them. It's just that you have been preconditioned to believe, I have to go through security at the airport. Is just the standard since 9/11 happened.
Right. Okay, now this is good. We're going to get back into it, you guys, on the next segment of Let's Talk Life, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're gonna move into the next segment. Okay, everyone, welcome back to this segment of the Let's Talk Life show with Leticia Latrice. We're here at radiophoenix.org, and I have my wonderful guest, the international attorney, Mr. Sheik Isoraq Bey. So, Sheik, we were just talking about TSA in the airport. Do we have to go through the TSA security or no?
No,
Mm.
you don't.
What?
And there's certain steps that one can take to go through it. So I'm gonna give you a story. Was it October, I believe, of 2016? I flew from Phoenix to Baltimore, Maryland. Now I have three forms of identification. But so normally when I fly, I don't like to use my state identification because I'm actually not a state citizen. I'm a foreign national.
Okay.
But I couldn't find it
Right.
because the person that booked my flight, that's the identification that they booked the flight with.
Right.
So I photocopied it. I have like thousands of photocopies of it.
Mm.
So I didn't have no problem leaving Phoenix, getting to Baltimore. But on the way back, I had an issue. So the gentleman, when I presented him with the photocopy of the identification, he was like, I can't accept that. And I said, I don't understand. Why can't you accept it?
Mm-hmm.
It has my picture on it.
Mm-hmm.
It has all the identifying information on it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, it's not a government issue identification. I said, yes, it is, sir. It is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am the government. I am the person that gave the state, in quotes, the information to put on the identification.
Right.
So then I gave him other identifying information. He still wasn't satisfied with that.
Okay.
So he wound up calling the Maryland Transportation Authority on me.
Oh.
Right. So I step off to the side. I see him hand all my documents to the Maryland Transportation Authority. They look over at me. They talk amongst themselves for about 5 to 10 minutes. I'm on the phone. Like I know they're gonna try to delay me from catching my flight because of what I was saying to him, and I was asking him questions, and I was obviously citing statutes and codes towards him, even though I knew that he would not know anything what I was saying.
Right.
But I was informing him that he has no authority over me. I know what's going on, and that all I'm trying to do is catch my flight, and he's trying to make it hard for me.
Right.
So when the Maryland Transportation Authority came over to me, they actually didn't even want to talk to me. Mm-hmm. They was like, here's your identification, sir. Have a nice day. And he was like, what? So I'm going to tell you what he did. So we started the process of so I can board my flight. Right. He act like he got a phone call, went with his phone, walked away, and came back and said, my superiors say you can't catch this flight. You have to catch the next flight. Well, I got a call. Well, I called, the TSA headquarters because they are the division of the Department of Defense or Homeland Security or whatever. And I was asking them what their standing of law was and how can they basically kick me off a flight for no reason. Right. And I was asking them what was their, standing in law, and I was explaining to them that I am a Moroccan citizen, I'm a Moorish American, I'm a foreign international, and that I don't have to, if don't want to expose myself to the radiation, when you're going into those scanners, because that's radiation that they're exposing you to. Wow. And I know for myself and a lot of Moors that don't allow themselves to go through that exposure, but because I know the law, I don't allow myself to be exposed to certain things. And when you don't know the law and you're just following on what's going on, right, then you get lumped in and people be like, well, why is this happening to me?
So you're saying that I can go to the airport and give them a photocopy of my driver's license and I can still get on the plane with the photocopy. Now, are you able to do that because of your type of citizenship, or I can do that also?
Here's the question. You have to ask yourself, what statute and code says that you have to present them with a copy of your identification before you board a plane that you paid for to board? Mm-hmm. And when I asked him that question, he didn't have no policy. The TSA told him to tell me. He looked at me and said, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know what to say to you. Right. I've never had anybody ask me the type of questions that you are asking me.
And that is the point. We never ask the right questions because we don't know what to ask.
And most of the time, too, is because people don't want to be looked at as a troublemaker.
Right.
Because, you know, if you stand up for yourself, they deem you, you want to cause trouble.
Bucking the system.
You think you're better than everybody else. Why can't you just be like everybody else? It's the being like everyone else that gets you the same symptoms as everyone else.
Or the same results as everyone else.
Right.
My favorite quote is, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. If you're doing everything the way that people have been doing it for the past 20 years, you think you're going to get any different results?
No.
Right. Exactly. No. Exactly.
And that's why I explain to people that a lot of people love focusing on money. They love, I got to, you know, step my money game up, as they say. But I tell them, if you start focusing and studying these statutes and codes, study government, study civics, you will see how all that is tied in. And people get upset because the wealthy keeps on getting wealthy. Right. And they're getting wealthy because they're using law to get wealthy. And that's the advantage that they have over people. That's why I explain to people that you first have to set yourself up as a company. Everything you want to do from this point on, you want to do as a company. Right. Example, a lot of people don't know that last year in October, Trump and the vice president got rid of, the Federal Consumer Protection Bureau, which was set in place by the Obama administration to protect the consumers from predator banks, you know, with the housing bubble and all that. Right. So they wiped that out to make it hard for an individual or a person to sue a bank now for what is called adhesion contract fraud. And adhesion contract fraud is basically when they don't tell you full disclosure of the contract and they manipulate you into thinking that you owe some type of money or promise to pay. Right. But in actuality, you don't.
Okay, wait a second. Let's back up there. And I kind of want to get into that also, the promissory notes and the, you know, mortgage loans and everything, because technically a mortgage is not even really money. It's just a note saying that you owe money.
And there was no, because basically, just trying to remember the court case. This young lady sued her bank on the grounds that the bank said that they gave her some money when no money ever even exchanged hands. Right. And that case law set the precedence for everybody after her to then start suing their banks on the same thing as mortgage fraud. And a lot of people have actually been using that to stop foreclosures on their homes.
Right.
And also I tell people too is because it's a bank, when you put your identifying information on their application, that's actually a financial instrument. That's a banking instrument. That's a negotiable instrument. So that's why they're able to sell that mortgage off to somebody else. Wow. Sometimes they take it a step further where they will change it into a bond, put it in the escrow account, or trade it on the New York Stock Exchange on the private side. So it's a whole lot of things that they do to us as the consumer because we refuse to know statutes and codes. We refuse to study negotiable instruments and to study how money works, which is commerce.
This is juicy, and this is what we need to know. And the goal of this show is to, to create awareness and for people to take the wool off their eyes and, as they say, stay woke, okay? Because this is not something that you will be taught in school. It's not something that you will be taught, just like in wherever,
in
college or anywhere.
Educational institutions.
But see, people have to take the time to self-educate yourself.
Right, and that's the key, because traditional formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. Why do you think we have so many millionaires and billionaires that didn't go to college?
Right.
And you have to question yourself, well, do you have to be so-called so smart to make all this money. No, you have to seek the wisdom, get the wisdom, and the financials follow. And because as you said just a moment ago, schools will not teach you this because majority of the stuff that I learned, I did not learn in a traditional setting. I had to go outside. Like even when I was studying law, they teach you what they want you to know.
Right.
So it's up to you to go above and beyond that to figure out what is going on.
Very true. I completely agree. And that's why I've become or been able to discover so many things. And also, you have to think for yourself. You can't just go off of what society tells you and the masses are doing. And that's what in the propaganda, and that's what the problem is right now.
Right.
Everybody has the wool over their eyes because we don't know the actual truth.
Right.
You are fed the truth that society wants you to know.
Right.
So that you can fall into their plan.
Right.
And in their hands.
Right.
So if you do want to get things that you've never had, do things differently that you've never done, you're going to have to step outside of your comfort zone and, you know.
And you got to study. I say you got to study more to be more because I've been in the Arizona Republic for 2 years now. And people always say, well, why do you call it the Arizona Republic? Because I'm not a state citizen. I live in a republic form of government. Mm-hmm. The United States of America is not a democracy. It's a republic form of government. If you read the Constitution, you will not see the word democracy anywhere written on there. Mm-hmm. Right. So with that being said, when I first moved here, I had issues with my HOA. I had issues with them trying to always tow my work truck because it was a construction truck that I used for my construction company. Because it has Florida plates on it, but the decal, I believe, expired in April of 2016. But I never got a new decal. And they kept on saying, well, you can't abandon your truck and leave it here. It's bringing down the property value. I said, well, my truck works. You see me drive my truck. You see me move my truck. My truck is always in a new, different spot. And they say, well, your registration is expired. I say, well, how do you know it's expired? Have you ran the plates to see the information that comes up on the plates? And they say, well, no. I say, well, have you been in my glove box to see? They say, no. I say, well, I'm going to put you on notice that my truck is privately recorded, not registered, because when you register your vehicle with any state agency, you actually are signing over ownership of your vehicle. That is how they're able to give you speeding tickets and are able to tow your vehicle without your permission. Again, you have signed a contract without even getting a copy of the contract, so you don't even know what's in the contract. They don't even disclose to you what is in the contract, which is the number one rule of contract law is full disclosure. If there is no full disclosure, the contract cannot stand in law. Right. So when I showed her my paperwork showing how my truck was recorded with the Secretary of the State of Arizona, Florida, and Washington, I showed her all my credentials for my vehicle. I showed her how I had a $7,500 lien on the vehicle, that if they tow the vehicle, they will be responsible for reimbursing me the $7,000. And I told them, I'm not going to be out here arguing with you guys not to tow my vehicle. All I said is just do me a favor. Please don't put any stickers on my tent. Just, if you have a problem, just put it under the windshield wipers. Right. And that's fine because I will have to.
Those stickers never come off.
And I have to file suit for damaging my car with the sticker. And
I love it.
And they looked at me and said, well, I apologize to you, sir. We didn't know. You know, we won't ever bother you again. I said, it's okay. That's what I'm here for. I'm here, you know what I'm saying, to put you on notice, to educate you so that you would know.
Right.
Because, again, everything I do it in a business capacity. So I don't have a personal bank account. I have a business bank account. Right. All my vehicles and everything I own is owned by my companies. Right. Because in law, a flesh and blood sentient being person cannot own anything. And that was done because of the Vatican made United States go corporate in 1929. That is one of the prime reasons why you have a social security number and a birth certificate, aka a warehouse receipt.
Because why now? Go over this. I need to get into this.
Because so what happened was Noble Drew Ali realized who he was, and he set a precedence in place to bring all our people back into the human family. So to mimic what he did, the Vatican made all citizens of the world corporate citizens. That's why when anytime you see your name in all capital letters, you assume that it's you because it's resembled to mimic you. It's written with the given name that your parents named you at birth. But anything that is in all capital letters represents a fictitious entity. So when you go to their Admiralty Maritime Court, which is a merchant court, a military court, they ask you who you are and you say your name, they just tricked you into crossing over into their jurisdiction. Because before they tricked you to cross it over their jurisdiction, they don't have jurisdiction over you.
Right.
They don't have that, and that's why they use wordplay to get people to, to give up their rights. And then they use fear and scare tactics to hammer it in. You got to ask yourself, even with the police, why does the police have to be so intimidating if they had all the rights and all the power over you?
Right.
Why does the police only target poor and uneducated people? How come they don't target the wealthy and the educated? Because majority of the wealthy people know the statutes and codes that governs them, and they use them. And once you show that you have a willingness to not only use them, but to stand up for just people just in your immediate circle,
right,
then they tend to leave you alone and shy away from you because they don't want any problems.
Right.
Because I was talking to my friend, I was telling her that a lot of people don't realize that courts, police departments are actually foreign corporations. They all have an FEIN number. They all have a credit score.
Ooh.
Yes, they all, and every officer of their company has to be bonded and insured. So when you bring suit up against them, that's actually affecting their credit score, and that officer will lose his bond and his license. And if he becomes uninsurable, he won't be able to work for no government agency because there's not going to be an insurance company that's going to be willing to put a policy on him because he's liable. Like he's injurious to their overall their bottom line.
Wow.
So it's when you start studying and learning that, and you start incorporating it to yourself, then you'll see the difference of how people treat you. You'll see, a lot of doors will start opening up for you. And you'll, like, for instance, I'm a private client of Chase because I don't have a personal bank account with Chase. So a lot of people, there's certain Chase buildings that you look at, like, why that look like an office apartment building? It don't look like a traditional bank because there's two sides of Chase. There's the public side, and then there's the private side. So the office looking building is the private side of the banks. That's where you have to be a private client, so it's appointment only. You can't just walk in and be like, oh, I want to open up an account or cash a check. They'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to go down the road and get that down the road. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
And the reason why I did it that way too is because if you have a personal bank account, you don't even own the bank account. You don't own the bank account. And if you were to take a magnifying glass and to read the signature line, it would tell you don't own a bank account.
What does it say?
It says authorized representative. And you gotta ask yourself, are you the authorized representative?
Right.
It's just like, for instance, when you have a child and you bring your child home, Do you own your child? They created a warehouse receipt for your child called a certificate of live birth. So they let you have the baby and keep the baby as long as you do what they say, what they want you to do with the baby. If you violate anything with that child, then CPS can come in and take your child from you. And you have to fight like heck, you know what I'm saying, to get your child back and jump through hoops and go through all their programs and do all this just to get your child back.
So can you not file a birth certificate when you have a child? Is that legal? Or?
Yes. But they try to intimidate you and scare you into thinking that you can't.
Like you could go throughout life, like say I had a baby tomorrow, I could have my baby no birth certificate and no social security number.
Right.
I could opt out of that.
Right. Right. Because see, what most people don't know too is that a social security contract is actually power of attorney contract. So you're giving them power of attorney over you. And like for instance, I was explaining this to my cousin. I'm like, cuz you like 40 years old and you don't even know it, but you're still considered a ward of the state
Because of the social security?
because he never went in and changed his status.
Oh, when he was in jail? What are you saying?
No. A ward of the state is basically saying that you are state property, you are state owned. It has nothing to do with being incarcerated or not. It's like, for instance, when you were born, your parents obviously requested a social security number and a birth certificate. You obviously was not of age to do that for yourself. But because you're not taught what is going on, you don't know that once you reach 18, you have the right to go in and amend the birth certificate and amend the social security application.
Really? So
Right.
what would you amend it to, or what do you say, or what do you ask them? Like, take me off
Well,
of
some people actually amend it to the point where they get rid of the social security number and they cash out or withdraw the birth certificate out of the escrow account.
What?
So they take it out of commerce.
This is all foreign to me. It's very intriguing.
I mean, just think about it. Have you ever looked at your birth certificate and realized why it's on that
certificate paper?
Right. Well, it's bond paper.
Yeah.
It's financial paper.
Uh-huh.
And it has watermarks on it because it's a bond. It's a warehouse bond that's traded on the private side of the New York Stock Exchange, and they sell bits and pieces of it to different corporations